Church, we have a couple different things that are going to be a little different today, and I'm really excited about it. But just to kind of give you a sense of where we have been, we are in the middle of a very small mini-series on the Kingdom of God. The Kingdom of God is a phrase that is not just forgetting the G in the Kingdom of God. It is a belief that God's kingdom is also a place where relationships happen, where people come together. And rather than focusing just on God's lordship, well, that is absolutely a part of it. Many theologians, and liberation theologians in particular, have said the consequence of the kingdom is kingdom, us moving towards one another and connecting to one another and feeling safe with one another in relationship with one another. And so at no point are we trying to undermine that God is God, but rather we're actually trying to invite ourselves into community with one another, even when that is hard or whatever else. So this mini series on the Kingdom of God comes after a month on unity and what it looks like to be beholden to one another, to love one another, to see the image of God in one another, to see the values of who God has made us to be in one another, and that our belovedness is not dependent on us doing the right thing or saying the right thing or earning the right amount of love, but rather that we can be, and our being is enough for us to deserve love. And out of all of that, we then look to the lens of the Kingdom of God. And we talked about the lens of the Kingdom of God being applied through the process of Jubilee in the world. That we see Jubilee from the Old Testament as this concept of giving back, of equity, of the land you've gotten or the slaves that you've bought are freed. The land is given back and all that goes through that in Leviticus. But as it moves through Isaiah and into the person of Christ, it becomes a cosmic reality of reordering, of enough, and of everything falling into what it should have been all along. And Jesus then reframes that even deeper from this is a promised event to a reality available in me. Today we want to come at the Kingdom of God from a very different place, because one of the realities of what the Kingdom of God has been from its very beginnings is a people who wrestle with God. We have 4 verses that I just want to throw up here for us to see in theory. Perfect. From Genesis 32, this is why the nation of Israel is named the nation of Israel. Then the man said, the man is somehow God and somehow an angel and also somehow some dude. The Bible's wild, just lean into it. But no longer, your name is no longer Jacob, for now on it's Israel, the God wrestler. You've wrestled with God and you've come through. When we were imagining a name for our church, for a very short period of time, I thought we could be Israel Covenant Church, and then it felt really problematic for so many reasons. And over the last 9 years, I've been grateful again and again and again and again and again. Our name isn't Israel Church, but here we are, the God wrestlers, those that wrestle with God and prevail. By Mark 9, we see a dad crying out for his son. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Father cried, "Then I believe, help me with my doubts," or "help me with my unbelief." Jesus is met with someone that says, "I think I believe you, but I don't fully believe you." And instead of saying, "Well, get that figured out and come back to me," Jesus says, "Cool, I healed your son. Let's go do this thing." In Matthew 28, Jesus has resurrected from the dead, is floating above them somehow and ascending into the clouds. And Matthew says the weirdest line in the Bible. Then they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. What are they doubting? But instead of Jesus saying, "Why are you doubting? I'm floating in the sky," he just continues to ascend and says, "I'll come back sometime." And I think the clearest to me picture of how I want to carry myself in the world comes from Paul after this long treatise on love. And how do you actually find the way that we operate in love? How do we actually love one another fully and completely? To remember that for now we see in a mirror dimly and then we'll see face to face. Now we know only in part and then we will know fully, even as we've been fully known. The promise of Corinthians is that, do you want to know how you really love? By having enough humility to know you just don't know enough as it is right now. That we can't know it all. That's not the point at this moment. and yet we stumble forward looking at the fruit of the things we believe and the ways that our brothers and sisters experience our love to determine if it's actually love and not our confidence in our rightness. So today we're going to join in something we do at a trimester level, basically, here at St. Thomas. We're going to do a question and answer Sunday. There's no more to the message other than an invitation for us to wrestle. I heard recently, I was listening to a podcast, actually by the Bible Project, but they said, we don't do question and answer, we do question and response. I can't guarantee you an answer to your question, but I promise we'll respond to it. And I think that's really good, because we see through a mirror dimly. But here's my invitations. We enter into this time of question and response on a regular basis, not so we go, wow, look how much Matt knows, but so we as a community step into loving and caring for and holding space for one another. And so I'll answer some questions that are specific or whatever, but I also want people to feel free to say, when I say, how did you survive having little kids? Other people in this room can say, here's how I did it. And how did you handle hard questions about God with your little kids? And those that are further down the road than me can answer those questions as well. So this is an opportunity for us as a room to engage in discussion, as well as I get it, I have a degree and I'll answer specific or respond to specific questions. We have a doubter's wall back in the corner and a book of all the doubts that have ever been written at St. Thomas, basically. If you don't have a question, but you want to hear a complicated one answered, feel free to go to the wall or responded to. But as a whole, we're just going to move into a shorter service today to do the holding space for. You don't have to just respond to the thing I just said. It might be, I've been thinking about a sermon you said 4 weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure you're wrong, and I've been thinking about it a lot and laying in bed at night, and when I stop and then you can bring it up now. Or, you always control the conversation, and I want to talk about this. This is your opportunity. So to all of that, we're just going to move into a time to wrestle. As always, we put our messages online. We don't put our discussion online. The video recording that goes on YouTube will cut off now. So you are all private and safe. We say things in front of one another, but you don't have to be judged by internet strangers. I do. So feel free to let that judgment come to me, and you all feel free to engage in the safety that this space offers.